One of the things that we've come up with as a rule is to not reuse job schedules. And when you set up a new job, there's a schedule section here. And what I usually do when I'm setting up a schedule is I put the job name and something about the frequency in it. I'm not real specific on the frequency because I know I'm going to come change that later. Most of the time I'll just go with a job name. So for instance, my job name is demo test 1. My job schedule I would call demo test 1. Now, if I had just called this job schedule every hour, and then Mitch comes along later and schedules a job and he sees that there's already a schedule there called every hour and takes my job schedule, then we have two jobs that are running on the exact same schedule and they start on the exact same second every time they run. Okay, first off, well, you're going to run into contention there with the job starting on the exact same second. So one of the things we like to do is to go in and modify the jobs. So this one is one that I wanted to run once an hour, and but instead of starting at like midnight and running every hour on the hour, I shifted it to 12:05 and 22 seconds. And I always like to not run it on the hour, the 10s, the 15s, or the 30s. So that way that you don't have all your jobs starting at that exact same point in time, and 10 jobs all trying to log to the same table and all trying to run queries at the exact same second can be a problem. But back to why the other reason I don't like to name them is that let's assume I've got my job running every hour and Mitch has his job that he set up that's running every hour. And then I come in later to edit my job and say, this job really doesn't have to run every hour. Maybe every 2 hours would be more appropriate. I come in and change my job that's associated with this, set it to 2 hours. I didn't just change my job at that point if we're sharing a schedule. I also changed the job that Mitch had so that now they're both running every 2 hours. And then Mitch starts getting alerts or somebody in management starts complaining about Mitch. Why is your job not running every hour? Well,
Yeah.
he comes back and says, oh, somebody changed it to every 2 hours. He comes in and sets it back to 1 hour. And then that affects his job and my job. And now my job's running every hour. So
Yeah.
then I come back and fix it, and I've seen a ton of confusion over that. So I really like to make sure that every job has a unique name on the job schedule so that we're not duplicating schedules and having other people edit those schedules. Another thing to consider when we're looking at job steps, since we've got this open, let's take a look here. This can get a little bit confusing. But with job steps, we have 3 steps here. When this job runs, you would expect it to run job 1 or step 1, step 2, and step 3. And that is what it does. But you can do some interesting things, like let's say we added a new step here, and we're going to call it error step, and it's going to do something. I'm just going to say select get date. We'd fill that in with real code to actually go log the error somewhere later. But looking at this, you might assume that this is going to run step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. But step 3 has been, let me make this a little bit wider so we can see it. Step 3 has been set up so that on success, quit the job reporting success, and on failure, quit the job reporting failure. Well, given this, if we just let this run, it's never going to get to job step 4. Now, if we hit OK, we get a warning here that says, warning, yeah, it's not ever going to get there. So we're going to change it to go to the next step. Is this the intended behavior? And I could say no. So really what I want to do is if step 3, the process I'd like to have happen in this case is step 1 and then step 2, and based off of step success or failure, we either go to step 3 or step 4. So I would go in and edit this long-running step, which is the one that's actually doing work. Well, in this case, I've just mocked it up with a wait for delay command, but that would be your long-running procedure. And I would go in and say on success, go to step 3, which is what we want. And on failure, instead of just quitting the job, I want to go to step 4, and that's the step that's going to log something about failure. So now at this point, it would go step 1 and then step 2, and then depending on the success or failure of step 2, it would go to step 3 or step 4. Now, this can get a little bit confusing based off the graphical interface for this being simply a list that shows all the steps. But the step number does not necessarily imply the order that's being run. Now, One thing I see people do occasionally is you go down, if you're trying to test or debug something, like let's say you've got a job with maybe 10 steps, and you say, okay, well, I want to skip step 1 for testing purposes this time, so let's just have it start at step 2. You hit OK. Well, then whenever that job runs, it's going to skip step 1. Now, that might be logical in some environments, but it might also mean that you're losing some of your processing every day if somebody forgets to set that back. So being aware of what start step is specified down here is important with that too.
I think it's also important to note that in a production environment, each job, there should be a shared document with each job and its information in there, what the job is doing, the steps, the schedule, and that needs to be updated so that if someone else comes and looks at the job, they can refer back to that document and be like, oh, okay, this is the intended process that it was supposed to be on. If someone altered it, they can revert it back to its unaltered state or contact the person that made those changes. So documentation is very important when doing SQL Server agent jobs so that everyone has access to the intended outcomes.
Yep. And two ways I've seen that done, and they both are effective, is like Mitch mentioned with doing a document or maybe have a document that has all your jobs in it, but also just going in here and putting in a description. This is a demo job, runs hourly or whatever it is, and created by, oops, if I can type, created by Steve. And there we go. It just saved that there. Hopefully your documentation is more detailed than that, but you can put a couple paragraphs in there if you want, or you can go put that into a Word document as well. So definitely good things to do there.